Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Dario here with another Options and Play video update. So, I promised you I would get the earnings video together and have it for you on Monday. Here we are. So, already this week is starting off pretty wild, and I expect it to get, well, not get, but I expect it to remain pretty wild. We have a ton of earnings, the volatility is already like super elevated, and we got the Fed on Wednesday, so just a lot going on. And I just really think it's shaping up to be a busy few days. All right. So um, after the close on Monday, so today, IBM. All right. So this is one of the big names. Well, not big names. It's really the only semi interesting name after the close today. It's priced in about 10.5 points. It had a major run in December to erase all of the losses from the last earnings report, but now the stock has come back down a bit, right? So last few earnings have really not been kind to IBM, and I mean it's still off the low from where it was in November and December. On the other hand, it's a value name, and people are loving value stocks right now. So is this time different? It's the major question mark. The pricing, it's not like too crazy, right? I mean, it did move more than 10.5 last quarter, but it's also not cheap, and I don't see like a real compelling setup, so maybe it's just something like I'll wait and see what tomorrow looks like, and then maybe jump in for a trade. Before the open tomorrow, so a few big industrials. So GE pricing in about 6 points. Um, you know, it really has just not been in place since they announced they were going to be splitting up in three separate companies. I mean, like that was this pop, then it basically just dropped for like a month straight, and it's tried to bounce, but now it's back down again. So it's still below key longer term support. So if I scroll out, you see what I mean, right? So it's below key longer term support, and the pricing seems a little bit higher option wise. So it's just not a very interesting setup to me this quarter. So I think I'm going to be leaving it alone. J&J pricing about 5.5 points. Big pharma report. The stock really has not made much progress over like the last year and a half. You can see. I mean, if I go back, I mean, really just hasn't been going anywhere. Um, it's been sliding now for about 2 weeks. Today, it's down really sharply, actually, ahead of earnings. So it doesn't always move a ton on earnings, but I mean, today's drop is actually more than what they were even pricing in for earnings this week, right? So definitely a little bit of an unusual move. Maybe it's a snapback candidate. I mean, if the numbers are solid, especially with today's drop, maybe. So maybe I'll look at something speculative on the bull side. But I mean, really, it kind of gives me a little pause that it's down this much today with earnings tomorrow morning. Lockheed, big name, big defense name. So this got absolutely crushed in October. They're only pricing in 18 this time around. I say only because I mean you could see how big of a drop it was in October. So I'm really kind of interested to see how this plays out. Um, it basically came all the way back, closed the gap, only recently just downticked, and it's kind of like nearing like a multi-year resistance range as it gets up closer to like the high 390s, 400 area. So it moved almost 50 last quarter, pricing in 18 this quarter. It seems like the pricing's off a bit. So maybe a volatility strategy candidate, but maybe the risk is more skewed to the downside just after the huge rebound. All right, after the close on Tuesday, things really get going. Microsoft priced in at about 19 points. Definitely one of the biggest names of the week. First of the tech titans. Just made that splashy acquisition of Activision, so I'm sure that's going to be a focus on the call. But the stock has also been real heavy. It was heavy even before that Activision news. Um, and prior to last quarter, it was actually more of like a sell the news on the earnings releases. That was its pattern. So I'm a little bit more cautious on the mega caps going into earnings this quarter. So I think I'm going to be more wait and see mode on Microsoft. I don't like the setup much, and I also feel like the option pricing seems kind of high. TXN, so about 10.5 points is what's priced in on this semi. It's closed red the last three reports in a row, and it's beginning to lose kind of like a major monthly support range. Maybe you could make the argument this setup is different because of the recent drop, but I guess I'm still slightly more bearish overall on it. It's also not my favorite semi. I don't trade it that often. I guess if it has like a big bounce tomorrow during the day, or if it keeps dropping and it's down a lot tomorrow, then maybe I'll look to go the opposite way. But if anything, it's either an avoid or maybe I'll look at something speculative on the downside. Maybe I'm really on the fence with it. Before the So Abbott is pricing in about 6 points. It it should you would think it should have a big quarter because of the huge demand for COVID tests, but what's priced in, right? And is this as good as it gets for Abbott? You can see the stock has basically been straight down since the start of the year. A lot of the vaccine makers have dropped sharply too, right? So it could be a really interesting quarter for Abbott. It does seem to be an interesting candidate for a volatility strategy, and option pricing doesn't look too bad either. Boeing. So about 12 points is what's priced in. It's been a serial disappointer on earnings lately, so it's tough to be really positive going into this quarter. Um, the stock had just been up near the top of this downtrend resistance, and then it's since dropped real sharply over the last couple of days. It could be a mover. It's not my favorite stock to trade. I haven't really been focused on it too much recently. I don't think I'm going to be in it, but if they do surprise to the upside, maybe it could have room to snap back. Just because, again, people probably have low expectations and the stock has dropped pretty quickly going into earnings. So maybe it's a little bit better setup if they can deliver this quarter. After the close on Wednesday, so Tesla, big name, pricing about like 101, 102 points. We already know their deliveries are excellent, right? So that should be some cause for optimism. The question is if good news is already priced in, right? Because we already know deliveries are great. It's held in slightly better than other mega caps, but it's also starting to show some cracks. I guess me personally, I don't have enough conviction with this to lay out that type of money, like 101 or 102. But if it can stabilize throughout the week, maybe it's one of those names where, it stabilizes, the market bounces. It could really be in a decent position to catch a bid once the market turns higher. So I don't think I'm going to play it on earnings, but it's definitely going to be something I'm focused on after earnings and maybe like into next week. NOW, so a big software report, pricing about 50 points. It's actually one of a couple big software reports this week. This sector is interesting to me. I mean, many stocks have been hit really hard. On the other hand, though, earnings have been solid on a lot of them lately. So NOW may really set the tone for enterprise software names during the week. And I don't know if it's going to have a huge snapback, but if it's solid, maybe it can recover a bit. Also, names like Adobe or Workforce or Salesforce, like other software enterprise software names, could be sympathy plays here. So you may watch those too. Intel pricing in about 415 ish around there. It's been hit hard the last few quarters in a row. So does it follow the same pattern, or is that too obvious? Because the last I think 4 quarters it's been down a lot. Its current straddle priced below what it moved in October. So, am I overthinking it, right? Or is it a decent volatility strategy candidate, right? They managed to surprise to the upside, but last few quarters it's been hit very hard, and options are priced lower than what it moved last quarter. So some things to chew on. LRCX, so pricing about 50 to 52 points. There's been some really big swings on the semi-equipment names the last 2 weeks with Taiwan Semi reporting, and then you had ASML reported too. So um, I I feel like I expect volatility to be higher on Lamb, um, but on its own report, I'm not expecting as big of a move as maybe some of the moves it saw on peer reports. So it's a little strange. Plus, I like the semis aren't acting that great, so laying out that type of money on Lamb is not high on my list of things I may want to do this week. But you could see if like an AMAT or a CLAC. I mean, if Lamb is good and bounces, maybe those can bounce too because they've been moving very, very similarly with one another lately. LVS, so pricing in about 3 points. It had a really nice rally since that Macau gaming permit update. But I do think it's hard to be super bullish going into earnings because last quarter really was not that great. Um, So maybe more of like a focus post earnings, right? If the breakout holds, the numbers aren't terrible. The breakout holds, maybe it could, put together another leg up. So, um, post earnings focus, probably not something I have options on though going into the actual report. Lending Club. So pricing in about 5 points. Those are monthly options, though. I'm curious to see how this acts into earnings. It's crushed it 2 quarters in a row, and the stock is way, way, way off its high and oversold too. I thought it was a good setup for a ramp into earnings, so gonna need to see where it is the day of to determine if there's still a trade there. But it also might have some read through to UPST as well. For the open on Thursday, Mastercard, so 19.5 points is what's priced in. It's the first of the two big credit card names. Visa's after the bell, so it's going to be a busy day for them. Mastercard's acted better than Visa, but they're both down a little bit the last couple days. Neither setup seems all that interesting to me. Mastercard's kind of in the middle of its trading range, right? If I go back further, you can see it's not near the bottom, it's not near the top, it's not really at any big levels. Option pricing is a little bit higher, so maybe if it keeps dropping this week and it's down even more going to earnings, maybe I'll look at maybe like a speculative bull idea, but I'm kind of on the fence with it. Mickey D's. So pricing about 10 points. This one could be interesting. Lots of restaurant stocks have been hit harder on rising wage pressures, food inputs, but McDonald's has held in better. Um, hasn't had a huge move on earnings in a while, but it seems like a quarter where maybe more is on the line, actually. So if option pricing comes down during the week, this might be something to look at for volatility strategy, actually. All right, after the close on Thursday, Apple, so definitely the main event of the week, right? Pricing about 9 points. So not only is it the biggest company, but it's also held in a lot better than the other mega caps. After hitting 3 trillion, which was back-to-back days, it's basically been straight down. Last quarter, not great. They actually missed on revenues, and it's also really not the best environment for mixed earnings releases. So Apple's going to have to deliver. Plus, it's up. It's actually up over 10 points from where it was when they reported last quarter, which was here. Um, yeah. Also, it's the holiday quarter too. So I guess I lean slightly more bearish on this because of its run and its recent report. But if it gets hit throughout the week, then that could change. Um, it's going to be more of a game time decision for me. And also, obviously, the Fed on Wednesday could change things pretty dramatically. So we'll have to see where it is on Thursday. But I guess if it's anywhere around here, I might lean a little bit more bearish on it. Team. So pricing in about 30 points. This was the other software name I was mentioning. It's been up huge, huge, huge 2 quarters in a row, and the stock is obviously way off its high. So I feel like they need to crush it, and it could be a snapback candidate. But also, again, if the numbers are solid, even if this isn't up a lot, I mean, maybe it could help like other software names recover because a lot of the software names are way off their highs, but they have had more consistent histories of delivering the last few quarters in a row. So there could be read through to other software names. Hood. Look at that chart. About 225 is what's priced in. It's been steadily sliding since last quarter, so that was here. Um, hard to see. I mean, for me, it's hard to see how this quarter is gonna be that much better. But maybe expectations, you can make the argument, are low enough where there isn't a ton of downside. It's not a very good setup in my opinion because it looks like a trending pattern, and typically for trending names, I am typically um, thinking like lower volatility, and I tend to avoid those on earnings. So I don't think I'm going to be doing anything with it. And then Visa, which I said, Mastercard's for the open, Visa's after the close. Visa's priced in about 11 points. All right, Cat before the open on Friday. It's pricing about 10.5. Big industrial print. It's been acting well. Um, coming off beat and raise in October actually too. So it could be one of those where maybe you get like a snapback, right? I mean, they can deliver, especially if it keeps getting hit during the week. I mean, again, beat and raise last quarter. There was some interest in industrials to start 2022. So I might look at a speculative bull strategy, but also like a deer, URI. Could be names that move off a cat. And then lastly, on Friday before the open, Chevron 4.5. what's priced in. This and Exxon typically report on the same day, but Exxon's not until the following week. So, very closely correlated. Um, Exxon's not until the following week, so maybe like late in the week, Exxon could be an interesting like sympathy play on Chevron. But at the same time, I'm also not sure. I mean, I haven't traded the energy stocks much, and I'm also not sure if Chevron's going to have a huge move. But something to keep an eye on because Chevron is this week, Exxon's next week, and those two tend to move together. And that's it. So a lot of big names. I mean, there's a lot of other names, a lot of other companies I didn't even talk about. So it's going to be a jam-packed week. Every day there's some big names, some big expected moves. Throw on higher volatility across the market and the FOMC on Wednesday. I mean, it's just really shaping up to be, I think, a wild few days. So buckle up. All right. If you like this video and you're looking for more information about trading earnings with options, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options to play. Have a great night. Stay well, and I will talk to you